Hello, you amazing person that clicked on this video. Welcome to the Catholic Influencers Podcast, Season 12, Episode 11, the full extended interview. I'm Augie Angrisano, your host, and someone who's still trying to figure out how to fold a fitted sheet without losing his sanity. Today's guest is the one and only Kevin Yumul, a talented graphic designer from Sydney, Australia. He's walking the faith, loving his family, and giving us streetwear that doesn't just look good, it edifies the Christian life with his brand, This Is Heaven. We're diving into Mark 10:35-45 this week, so if you're craving more, make sure to check out that full episode with Alyssa, Justine, and Father Rob, and let's get into it, and let's welcome Kevin.
Hi everyone, my name is Kevin. I'm here with Josh. This is my first time ever doing a podcast with everyone, so it's definitely a pleasure, and also it's an honor to be invited. A little bit about myself. I'm 33 of age. I'm a husband, I'm a father, a brother, a son, and a friend. I was born in the Philippines. I grew up in New Zealand, but now I'm based in southwestern Sydney. And I'm also the founder and creative director of This Is Heaven Clothing. Yeah, it's a little bit about me. Yeah, thank you.
Well, it's so good to have you on our podcast.
Yeah.
We've crossed paths because of your work on This Is Heaven and just the amazing just streetwear that you create. I think it's one thing to know how to use Canva. It's a totally other thing to be able to, just be strong in prayer and depict what's a really powerful message, and then to put that onto a T-shirt that looks cool, and that is something that people feel proud to rep. That's a real talent. And so, can you just share a little bit about how This Is Heaven came to be?
Well, first and foremost, praise God for that. I'm glad it resonates with you. Always as a designer, you always think back, how would the message be perceived by others? But I try not to get in the way when I do design. But to answer your question, how did This Is Heaven come about? Ever since I was young, what I mean by young is age of 13. That's when I fully had a so to say moment with getting to know the Lord. And I've always liked streetwear. I grew up in New Zealand, like what I said, and in New Zealand, we loved hip hop, and part of hip hop. Not just the rap scene, but also, everything, all the elements of hip hop. I could go on for hours about all that. That's a different conversation, but...
Is it a different conversation, though? Maybe it's this one. Maybe we dive into hip hop right now.
But, with the appreciation of hip hop and streetwear, growing up with the music, and at the same time, getting to know, the message of Jesus Christ and being involved in youth. And that was my gateway. And obviously, as I got a little bit older, gained a little bit more funds and more exposure to how I can do things, I decided, take a deep dive. And I've been doing This Is Heaven on and off and since 2011, but just in the last couple of years, I've taken it a little bit seriously, and last year was the year that I said, all right, let's do this for real, because I'm a dad now, and I got to set an example to the kids. It's a different ball game now. So, yeah.
I didn't know you were a father. That's really cool. Congrats. Did you ever find that there was a clash between, your creative endeavors and first becoming a father? I had everybody in my life tell me that it was going to be impossible to juggle both. But I just found that the inspiration and the fire to pursue, what I love just increased, what I mean? Because, it got real. And so I'd love to know, was that clash a thing for you? And also, how does being a parent change your process? How does that change your art?
Yeah, no, 100%. I found, not just, design wise, I wanted to oh man, how can I do this differently? How can I portray this message differently? Then I look at, okay, what's out in the market? What's trending right now? And I've always been the type to not follow the trend. And once again, that comes down with our faith, right? we want to be counterculture in a way, because Jesus Christ was counterculture. But, just bringing it back, what I mean by that is I try to set the how can I play around with, I started off with t-shirts, I started off with that. Now I'm playing around with like knitwear. Okay, how can I portray,
Cool.
Jesus Christ in knitwear and all that, and just yeah, it does take that step, and it's always a constant elevation in that, and with prayer and with discernment, it gets you there, and it's a such a fulfilling thing, because that the creator, obviously God, the creator, is a creator. You know what I mean? Like,
Man, high
and
quality art for the most high. If you're creating something for
indeed,
God, it needs to
yeah,
be dope. It cannot be lame because God is the ultimate painter.
exactly.
He's the ultimate artist, you know?
That's you better be dope. You better better be nice, and not always every time that you make, not the ones that you put out, but
Yeah, for
it's a
sure.
constant improvement. I'm sure with your music and everything, you try different things, and that's the beauty of it. It's
Well, and I
beautiful.
think that the ministry of This Is Heaven is so important right now because kind of the default imagery in clothing and in branding is like super demonic. And there's kind of like these two
Oh,
camps. There's people who like actually believe this stuff, and they're rocking with the demonic. But then there's this massive amount of people who are just doing it because it's a trend and because that's just what everybody else is doing. You know what I mean? And so I think it's just so important to have like that alternative available where people can feel proud to rep, the Christian walk. And I know that, like since becoming a father, I've sort of been the same thing of just double checking my messaging and taking me a while to really come to that and just like realize that, like my daughter's gonna listen to this, in a few years' time. And what does that mean? What do I want to change about that? Her husband's gonna listen to it maybe, and so I have to like come with it with just a completely new approach.
yeah, and we what you mentioned about the once again tying it up to being a father as well. One thing I haven't spoken about as well is, other than, because I'm a one man band, I'm everything. It's all me, and I don't say it to boast. But I've
Everything
just
with
been
This Is
fortunate.
Heaven project is all you mean?
Yeah, correct. Yes, when
Yeah,
it comes
cool.
to this heaven, what I mean by that is I've just been so blessed with the strength of God, that He's allowed me to be the social media guy. I'm not always the best. Allowed me to be the design, marketing. You do learn all that, and I wanted to bring that up because that's also something I want to teach my children.
Yeah.
When it comes through to, other than just being a design, we have to, how do I teach my kids to be self-sufficient and provide for them? Yes, getting a job is beautiful. Getting education, I'm all for that. But at the same time, this is another way. So all those different aspects, and my son, he loves it when I pack orders. I also pack the orders. So I also do the logistics. Or everything that has to do with running a business. It's all
Mm.
done by myself at this moment. And my son loves it. When I pack some orders and stuff, and he loves it because he gets to use some of my my stationery and stuff like that. So it's it, it's bonding. It's beautiful.
Oh
Yeah.
man, that's so beautiful. And I just think that's so cool that, all these life skills, everything you're learning through the project of This Is Heaven, you're being
No.
intentional about passing that down
Yeah.
to your children. And that's something that I don't know, I just am really kind of worried about and trying to think about is, how can I take my family along with me? How can I, everything that I'm learning about life, everything I'm learning about just work skills and work ethic and whatever different trade stuff that we learn along the way by just seeking and going after what we're going towards. How can I bring my kids along in that and not just be a me thing, it be a them thing. I kind of wish my family did that a bit more. They did the best they could. They were super loving. They were super awesome in so many ways. But I just wish that I was passed down some more life skills. And so I'm trying to do that for me. It's cool that you're doing that with your son.
Yeah, and you're right. Like, and what I found, and as a dad, like, one thing I always say, and once I told you that my first son was, so to say,
Michael.
came out of the blue. We put
Was
it
it
that way,
Michael?
Michael.
Yeah, cool.
Um, and what I find, I always tell myself, be kind to yourself as a new dad. Like, be kind because there's no handbook for this. Like what you said, my parents, loving parents as well. My mum and dad did everything to provide for us, and I'm
Mm.
always grateful for that. But there's no handbook. Like my parents live in New Zealand. Like it's just me here, and but that being kind to yourself because you it's new. You're always learning. Every day is something new, is something different, and something. And I think as we walk with Christ, as we get as we understand what what the teachings of Jesus Christ is each and every day, we also grow ourselves. So we have to be kind, like to ourselves. Like we're not going to get it perfect. I'm not a perfect dad, and I obviously fail a lot of times. But I just know my kids. I know end of the day, they know they're loved. I think that's what matters.
Oh man,
So
as long as we love each other at the end of the day, that's the most important thing right there, right?
correct. Yeah, love each other.
Yeah. So you moved
Yeah.
from New Zealand. Can you tell us a little bit about what that move was like for you? Why did you move? How was it? Just give us the details. Spill the tea.
Yep. Well, the journey, the main reason why I moved to Australia was because of my then girlfriend, which is now my wife.
Ah,
So,
our stories are so scarily similar, except, I moved a few
yeah,
more thousand miles away from my home, but I'm sure that the ins and
correct.
outs and what it was like for you, I feel like a lot of it
Yeah,
would be similar,
it's
just the pros and the
no,
cons.
no,
How
no, that's
cool.
cool. But yeah, that was a reason. Obviously we both finished university and we both graduated, and I said, look, let's move to Australia. Obviously more opportunities for me. And then on, I haven't. I told myself I only have $2,000. If I don't make it here, if I don't get a job, I can always come back because it's a 3-hour flight. It's just going interstate.
Yeah.
But after that, I never came back home, and I've been here for 11 years. And I was actually going to say, I was born in Philippines, grew up in New Zealand, but I became a man in Australia. So that's how I would put it. I became a dad and set up my life here. So
So when did faith really come into play for you? When did you make that personal choice? For me, marriage honestly was a massive part of it. I don't know if it was the same for you, but yeah, just tell us a little bit about that moment.
man, you know what, Josh? Like you're the first person that ever asked me like that. I've never had a very serious conversation about where my faith started, and for me, I grew up obviously. I grew up Filipino. I'm Filipino, obviously. um, and my parents were a different denomination. My parents weren't Catholic. We grew up. It's a denomination in Philippines called Iglesia, and they were Protestants. But when we moved to New Zealand, my parents we went to a Protestant church. But obviously, the rest of my other family, like my uncles, my aunties, and stuff, they were Catholic. So for me, where faith started was a very young age. I was 13. I went to a youth group, CFC Youth for Christ. And from then on, man, ever since that youth camp, I had an encounter with Jesus Christ. I knew the Our Fathers, I knew the Glory Bees, I knew the Hail Mary because you're exposed to that with school and everything. But man, there was just that one moment where I just committed my life to Christ, and I've never looked back at that young age.
Beautiful,
And
man.
I was 13, and that youth group that I was in really helped out with my growth. I spent my teens in serving in the youth group. So yes, I went to school. I went to a secular school, but by serving in the youth group allowed me to, you know, I had beautiful friends, lifelong friends, but it allowed me to stay out of trouble. I missed all that teen, um, all the troubles that your teens would give you.
You're lucky.
I bypassed that, and I say that humbly, because youth group really allowed me to serve and to really encounter Jesus Christ, by service, by giving talks to other youths, by doing camps and all that exposure. But after that, yeah, I met my wife in my youth group as well.
Oh, cool.
So that's there. And then we had a conference. Obviously, she lived in Sydney. I was in New Zealand, and we, remained in contact. And yeah, we were long distance for 3 years. And man, faith really plays in. If I wasn't strong in my faith, if she wasn't strong in her faith, we wouldn't be where we are. And I say that, with so much conviction, because it really got us. We were still serving as we grew after uni. And when I moved here, we were still in service. And then I decided, when I moved here, I decided to take it up a notch, and yeah, proposed to her, and the rest was history. Now,
Another comparable thing in our story is I did long distance as well for a year, and I still contribute. Being long distance for a year with Emily, my now wife, just so beneficial, because there was no physical element to the relationship. It was impossible. It all had to be emotional. It all had to be communication. And now, like, even if she says something a little off, I'm like, something's wrong. I know this because, I had to love you from afar for so long. I found it really beneficial.
You learn to, with the words faith, you really have to trust that, okay, good. And I didn't, in a way, I wasn't too scared or anything that she would be unfaithful. She's a beautiful person. Like, she grew up right. You know what I mean? Like, her parents raised her right. And
it sounds like there was a mutual commitment going on,
That's right. And then, look, I'll be honest, I knew from the beginning, like, I know it sounds cliche, but I knew it. Like, I say this story all the time. From, in Sydney, I don't know if you've been to Sydney International Airport, but there's two gates, right? A and B, and there's a ramp going down. A mini ramp. And I knew straight away when I saw her, I was like, yo, I'm gonna, marry this person.
No way.
Obviously, like, she didn't know who I was and anything like that. But you just knew, you know what I mean? Like, if soulmates, if we're talking about soulmates or whatsoever, that would be that moment for me. Like,
it's good you didn't pull like a Joseph and reveal that dream too soon and be like, you're gonna be my wife. you held your cards close. You played it smooth.
No, none of that. No. You kept it classy.
It was love at first sight for real. How cool is that, man?
No, exactly. Yeah. So, it's beautiful. Yeah.
Oh, how good. All right, let's jump into the gospel reflection for this week. So, what do you want to share with the audience?
Yeah, for sure. So, when I was given the gospel to reflect on, I was looking at, okay, other than just looking at that particular, from verse 35 to 45, I looked at the whole chapter. And throughout the whole chapter, Jesus had been teaching, right? From number 1 to 12, he was chapter 10, verse 1 to 12 was teaching about divorce. Next one was teaching about, about little children, about the rich man, and also he told about his death the third time. And so when reflecting upon from verse 35 to 45, it made me think, when James and John was asking Jesus, give us in the right hand or left hand. And when Jesus asked them, are you ready to drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized the way I was baptized? It made me think, are we, when we ask Jesus for, when we pray or we do petitions to God, like, are we really ready to, or are we asking the right question? Are we really ready to accept the full extent of what we're asking for? Mm-hmm. So that's one thing that came to mind, am I ready? Like, for example, tying it back to what I do in This Is Heaven, when I ask, people ask me what my dreams are, or what the visions are for This Is Heaven. Yeah, I want to make it big. I want to make it global because I want to make God known. But am I ready for that? Am I ready for to accept that and to take that on, because
Yeah.
then I know that there is sacrifices that I would need to make. And those are the things that when asking that question, when praying to God about it, at that moment, it's cool, it's fun, it's the euphoria a lot of you. But then when God does bless you about that, it's like, okay, this is a different ball game now. And what James and John obviously asked Jesus about, okay, let's sit on your left and right hand, like that's big. Yeah, and Jesus responded back with, that's not for him to decide. It's already been prepared. So therefore, what I got from that is Jesus was, saying that what's meant to be is meant to be. Like if it's for me, or for example, if it's for This Is Heaven to be global or big, that's already been decided. I just have to do what I have to do. If it's not, then I have to obey. I may pray that, yes, I want to make it big, I want to make it great. You never know. This Is Heaven might end at the end of this year. You know what I mean? Like, so all that. But I just have to, it's already been prepared, and I just have to prepare. I just have to listen and obey. The other thing that I got was the second part of that verse was when Jesus obviously redefined what it is to be someone who is held at high authority. Jesus, mentioned the ending part of that particular verse is, whoever amongst you wants to be great, there must be, last. And it's fitting for us Catholic, influencers, or so to say, or people, Catholic have. Catholics who has a bit of a platform, oftentimes we get caught up with the glitz and glamour of, what our platform gives us. And somehow, some way, our prayers start to change, here and there. And our petitions ask, we start to ask Jesus, we ask to pray to God differently. But what Jesus is calling us, because for our own platform, we're leaders of that platform. You know what I mean? Like, for example, whoever's leading the, This Is Heaven, which is myself, and you guys, you guys are leading the way. And what I got from that last verse was Jesus is telling us, if you want to be great, if you want This Is Heaven to be great, you have to be a servant. I cannot be at the forefront. You cannot be, my face cannot be out all the time.
This is literally the first time I'm seeing your face, because I just didn't know. And Alyssa was like, let's get This Is Heaven. She's like, oh, what's his name? I was like, I don't know. This Is Heaven. I don't know. You really are not at the forefront of the brand, like you said.
Amen. Yeah. So it's that, like, I don't know if I came out clear, or where my reflection was regarding that, but I think what I'm trying to say is, we are leaders of our chosen field, but Jesus challenges us that we ourselves need to be servant. We need to be of service. So when I do This Is Heaven, I got to think of it in a servant way. How can I serve the community with what I design? It can't just be me doing the coolest things all the time, but you know what I mean? Yes, you do the coolest things all the time, but it needs to be Christ I need to be at the back. When everyone's like in awe of it, I want to be at the back. I don't want to be at the front. I don't want to be, and I always shy, I don't like being praised or whatsoever. And praise God, for any praises that I get, I always lift it up. Yeah, lift it up to God. So that's where I got it. That's what I got from the message. Just to recap, that is, am I ready? Am I really asking the right questions? Am I ready to accept, what God will give me if I do ask those questions? And the second thing as well is, if if I want to be great, I must be a servant.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that. Just reflected back on what you said, I just think back to how many times have I prayed, and just like James and John in the gospel, I just didn't know what I was praying for. And he was just like, you don't understand what you are asking for, and like the heaviness or the just all the details, all the ins and outs of it. And he's really just all about our hearts, man. He just wants us to just fully just to commit our hearts and that full trust, and into his plan. And it's difficult at first when you're starting out, when you're praying for this and you're praying for this to get off the ground and your own plan. But it really is just putting that to the side and just giving him your heart.
And sorry to interject, but like I noticed as well, reading through the scenario within that, obviously James and John asking Jesus such such a big request, like put us in your right hand, left hand. And all in the verse itself, the other 10 apostles were a bit angry at them for like, why are you even asking that? Why are you even asking Jesus Christ that?
Yeah.
But then Jesus was so beautiful; he answered it so humbly, and that's when he said that whoever amongst you wants to be great, you got to be a servant, and he even talked about how authority, something about the. Well, let me read that part if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for it, man.
So chapter 10, verse 30. Oh, sorry, chapter 10, verse 42. He goes, so Jesus called them all together to him and said, you know that those who are considered rulers of the have power over them, and the leaders have complete authority. So Jesus was like saying that, those people in our world right now that are leaders and stuff, they flaunt it and they flaunt their power over the people and stuff. But what Jesus is saying for his disciples is that, however, this is not the way it is among you. If one of you wants to be great, you must be a servant of the rest. And if one of you wants to be first, you must be the slave of all. For even the Son of Man did not come to be served. He came to serve and to give his life to redeem many people. So I find that very beautiful. And what a leader, right? What a leader to follow. Like, just, I want to be a leader. And once, it's so funny. It's so funny because remember how I told you today at work, I'm interviewing people. My position at work right now is I'm a team leader. And I always try to have that servant attitude as a team leader. And that verse itself, it just stuck by me. If I want to be a good leader at work, I want to be a good leader in terms of this is heaven, whatever niche I'm in, I must be a servant to all. I must serve. And nothing better than following Jesus Christ to lead and providing a great example. So, yeah. Sorry to interject you. What were you going to say?
No, that's all good, man. No, just your reflection and like, did we count the cost? We don't know what we're asking for. It just kind of brought to mind, you said you're a big hip hop fan, and obviously like I'm a huge hip hop fan, and people like the guy, people hate the guy, but I love Lecrae, and he has this verse where it just kind of made me look in the mirror, where he was just kind of like, what are you getting into Christian hip hop for? Is it because of the money? Is it because of the Grammys that you're seeing me win? Is it because of all this? Because I'm gonna tell you right now, like that was God's plan for my life. That's not God's plan for your life. There's not gonna be another me, and it was just like, if that's why you're doing this, then you really need to reconsider, because I promise you that if you just grow close to God, God's gonna do something cool in your life, like an individual journey for you. And I guess I also there's this other creative named Ruslan. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
Yeah,
but
I know Ruslan. Yeah, I watch him on YouTube time to time.
Oh, good. Yeah. He just kind of talked about how there was just not a lot of lanes for just Christian communicators. It was like be a priest, be a pastor, or like something else. And so there was just a lot of young men who just jumped into Christian hip hop because that was just, they're like, hey, I'm good on camera, I'm a good communicator. They just jumped into Christian hip hop, but maybe that wasn't necessarily their calling, you know? And so I'm just trying to backpedal and just figure out what God wants for my life, you know?
For me, if you put that in a Christian, in a Christian context, I want to make sure when I design my stuff, I've not lived it, but I've discerned about it. When I designed my "In God We Trust" jumper, like, did I really trust God? Yes, I did. And so that there's that element that I try to put in that in those designs, that I want to ensure that I just don't design it. I just don't design it. I want to ensure that when I put it out there, I've lived it.
Man.
I've prayed about it. So it just gives that extra element, because anyone can design X, Y, and Z. But once again, what you were saying, like, have you lived it? You know what I mean? Have you gone through it? Because someone can just start start saying, I love Jesus, blah, blah, blah. This is Jesus Christ. He saved me.
There's a lot of those.
Yes, that's well and good. And I pray that people are genuine when they say that. But I'm a bit more, when it comes to design, I want to ensure that, okay, yep, I've done this, I've done that.
Yeah, man. And I guess I kind of like think of that Jay-Z line as just, he was just being, you know what I mean? It was just like, what do you mean? Like, I was just being, and this happened. And I just think a lot of people in their career lane, we just compare, we look, because of the internet age and everything like that. But it's just, yeah, just being and growing closer to God and just focusing on that and just seeing where God's going to take you. That's the real heart of I don't know, what we're all called to do. And his plan is so much better than our plan.
No, correct. And just, yeah, it's beautiful just to be you. I think, we were speaking about being creative and just being whatever passion you have, you really just got to be 100% you and just be authentic you. Because think about this, like, how can God work through you if you're not you? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, God needs you to be you in order for him to work through you. So, let's say, let's use in a Bible character, for example, if David wasn't being David, God wouldn't be able to work through him.
Yeah, like David, if he wasn't, out tending to the flock, he wouldn't have learned the slingshot. He wouldn't have slayed the other beast that would have prepared him for Goliath. It's like he just had to be and just be obedient.
What social media gives us and what society gives us is, I don't want to be me. I'm not good enough. But no, like, God made you. God put the things in front of you. God put all these struggles in front of you because it's part of his plan, and it's a way for him to work through you. And yeah, man, it's beautiful.
Well, Kevin, it's been so good to meet you, man. Yeah. To meet, like, the man behind This Is Heaven. So God bless you. Thank you for blessing our audience with your gospel reflection. And till next time, bro.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate it. Have a great evening.
All right, that is a wrap for today. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe, and maybe even try folding that fitted sheet again, this time with the podcast playing in the background. For a deep dive of this week's gospel, catch that full episode of the Catholic Influencers podcast. It's available everywhere that you get your podcast. And of course, all our social links are waiting for you at CatholicInfluencersPodcast.com. See you next week.